Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Realpolitiks Let's Play. This is Northstar. I hope you are well, are taking care of each other, and being kind to yourselves. For new viewers to my channel, welcome. Returning viewers, welcome back. New viewers, you can check out this series and all my other series organized into playlists on my YouTube channel from oldest to newest. Looks like I just finished a project. I was gonna have to figure out what to do next. Might want to start an import infrastructure. Let's check the NGOs. New folks you should also know. Also they're all oldest newest except for my Northstar Talks Politics series. You should also know I'm disabled with long COVID. It affects my cognition. I can always think the most quickly. My energy can really lag, which doesn't help. That's difficulties focusing, getting distracted easily, etc. I'm gonna turn the volume up here in a second. For you guys. File X organization is dangerous. Yeah. Give international aid. This is, like many things in this game, absolute slander against socialists because this game are clearly anti-communist pigs. Danger from UFOs, anti-aircraft systems. Well, that'll add a little pop growth. If I can make the file X happier. All I need to do is have an anti-aircraft system. Or international actions project. Right. So I've been prioritizing population growth because ultimately that will help determine the rate of economic growth. It's difficult for a long time to exceed this kind of rate of pop growth with economic growth, but eventually will, and you get a, while in the low development range, get a boost to GDP growth rate and population growth rate, so it's self-perpetuating somewhat. And a real small nation needs population growth rate for military capacity. If you have a larger population, more soldiers. So, right, there was super rails theory. Economic development level will actually increase when these advanced industries and next generation cities are done. Give me a sec. All right, I know some of you hate me for doing this, but I'm gonna take open borders policy. Because unfortunately, video games like this probably attract too many people who are xenophobic and far too anti-immigrant. Now, yes, capitalist countries, and this game just runs off the capitalist realist assumption that everything is capitalist. The false Soviet, which is a load of crap. Nations still trying to go socialist today. History has not ended, but capitalist countries will tend to, the ruling class will want to draw in immigrants in order to try and keep wages low or hyper exploit people. Right. There have been studies performed by U.S. government offices and academia claiming that wages don't go down for citizens when immigrants come in, and that may be true, although these groups often take whatever opinion is most in the interest of billionaires. But the immigrants themselves are definitely paid very low wages and exploited, and there are still humans who are suffering. The people are restless. Revolutions and they act quickly and completely reduce unhappiness in the country. Okay, so yeah, that happened, I guess, on a slight delay from crushing that rebellion before, is my best guess. Maybe it was some glitch. I don't know. Is it saying 41% unhappiness in Kosovo? 41. Hmm. Let's see what might be causing this. War losses, culture conversion. Oh, yeah, okay. That the game encourages you to do that. It should just allow you to add new accepted cultures, which would actually create incentive for expanding in terms of improving diplomatic relations with nations that share a culture with an area you conquered, because suddenly that would be the people who speak that language in your empire. New national improvement project, brainwashing. I might actually need that soon. With the very high levels in happiness, this is a cost-effective way, although you can get some really nasty negative events. We'll move your politics very far to the right. Which system is already going to tend towards totalitarianism, but the rate of drift is slower because personal control tends to go down. I guess this won't affect it going down because the target will still be way below where it currently is. Anyways, so migration to rich countries doesn't really do much to slow the population growth of poor countries. In fact, it has no significant effect. These countries are made poor not by quote overpopulation, although overpopulation is mainly a concern globally because of increased oil and coal consumption and the planet head towards climate collapse, not because of any bullshit of more people making the country poor. Paraguaysm in Rio Grande do Sul. Uh, whole cities are comparing to it in Brazil. Yeah. Now, a country decreasing its population can temporarily give it a boost to GDP growth, like China did with its one China policy, and that helped it escape the poverty trap it was stuck in and set on the path to strong growth even after birth rates came back up, which they have somewhat. Or at least they didn't really come up very much, like a almost insignificant amount, but they stopped falling when normally as a country gets richer they would fall further. They came up very slightly, and they now are trying to encourage people to have more kids instead of fewer. But the absolute number of people, in fact, the statistics show that more densely populated countries actually tend to be slightly wealthier, all things considered, although all things considered includes things like ratio of population to natural resources. So there's some assumptions to go in that are questionable. Anyway, someone conducted spread descent. Yeah, country. It's gonna make things even rougher. But anyways, my point was, the countries are often poor because of imperialism from rich countries, because their corporations coming in, buying politicians, establishing monopolies, or already having monopolies from areas where, especially in Africa, those countries were literally colonies of Europe. And when the European countries left, they left their corporations in charge of resources that were stolen at the point of guns from the locals. So that's very much, unjust control. And then these companies form monopolies and buy politicians, and monopolies tend to be self-sustaining because they have economies of scale and because they engage in unethical practices like lowering the prices only where another company tries to break in the market while keeping them high everywhere else. A new alliance seems to have been born between Brazil and the African Union, with both sides of the Atlantic Ocean come together. Maybe very hard to stop them. But economic imperialism, including invading countries when they try and do things that say the U.S. doesn't like. The U.S. is constantly bombing countries, and you almost never read about it in the news unless it's a major war. Okay, I was caught trying to do a core on Romania. I guess I'll need to send a diplomatic mission to improve relations to somewhat offset that effect. But invasions, economic imperialism, sometimes just things like tropical diseases keep countries poor, not overpopulation. But anyways, emigration doesn't really reduce the population of these countries Monetary policy specialists have proposed increasing interest rates as a way of balancing the economy with the current inflation. There's no need for that. Well, it give a not insignificant amount of money, and interventionism actually makes it hard to go bankrupt. Great idea. Delaying a bankruptcy since I'm getting high in debt is probably a good idea. And since you lose an absolute 5% of your economy every time you go bankrupt, yeah. Anyways, where was I? Arms trade. God, I swear, whenever I start talking too much, I wouldn't be surprised there's some sort of AI embed. And we have received a trade offer from a third world country. Well, it wouldn't be a real AI, but we've received a trade offer from a third world country. That wouldn't be anything unusual except the fact they want to buy arms. It's good, easy money. We don't know where it came from, and we do know what they're going to do with our guns. Where the money came from, and warmonger reading, not something I really need to. Of course, that's quite a bit of money. I wasn't about. Well, no, I really should be doing an attack on another country. Absolutely not. I actually still have some more warmonger rain that's decaying away. I'm also about to probably. Serbia doesn't seem to be in a block anymore, so it's time to finish off Serbia. Well, I mean, I fought for Kosovo a while back. They're probably doing spy actions on me periodically and stuff. I guess I'll do an ad hoc grand offensive. Start preparing that even before I launch the war. The Olympic Games. The Olympic Games are drawing near. The International Olympic Committee will soon choose the next host country. Who's it gonna be? Oh, I can afford to compete for sure now. Some amount of money, but GP growth for a while. For like 20 months. It's like 0.6% of the economy in total. We lose 5% from bankruptcy. It will, well, also tax income. Okay. Yeah. Try and win these. I might delay the bankruptcy by take over Serbia, increasing the size of my economic base. Peace treaty between China and India expired. To start. Oh, these tanks are expensive. Oh, start training a couple tanks. Price losses that almost certainly happened during the war. His network. Boom. That's I. Hmm. I'm gonna do some military stuff soon, but import infrastructure is actually very quick. And get this knocked out. And actually, it's longer than I thought to train those tanks, and then I can start in that hawk. One taken. Census. Every now and then, it's good to take a census. Costs money in AP, but increases HDI and score. I don't really need the HDI right now. Some other time. Peace, man. Do you want to change the world? Start with yourself. Don't be a cog in the machine. Break the system. Cease this pointless armament. It's a one-way ticket to destruction. Turn off the infantry support tactics project. yeah, I don't want to hurt relations with the Peace Planet. It took a long time to build it up. Promise to turn off within a month. Right. It's not great to have to do right on the verge of war. Um, so yeah, migration does not substantially reduce the population countries that migrants come from. This is often because it's only the most. It's often the people who are struggling the most relative to their education level. It's not always poor, uneducated people. It can be members of the middle class who are in danger of being pushed in the lower class. In fact, Mexican immigrants have college degrees at higher rates than U.S. immigrants, but they're often people who have college degrees and aren't able to do enough with them for one reason or another. As promised, you turn off the infantry support tactics project. Whenever you're working for peace in another planet, you're also working for Peace Planet. Wait, that hurt relations with the People's Democratic Front? Gah! I would never not have done that. Well, not good. Why? Oh, not Freedom Movement, People's Democratic Front, the socialists. Okay. Since they need to hire warmonger rating, I guess one is eco-socialist and the other is militant socialist. Since very Peace Planet, the way they're doing things is eco-socialism. Lost explorers. I mean, they want things like maternity leave. Um, they want low unemployment. A group of explorers just got lost in the mountains 3 days ago. Our search and rescue teams don't find them. Keep searching or cancel search. Cancel search. I don't want to be spending more money on something like that. War between Brazil and Paraguay. Really? Does this have something to do with the Paraguaysm thing? Ah, yes, it does. Brazil refused to accept Paraguay. Oh no, they did accept it as a culture. Okay, that's weird, but it's probably got something to do with that, is my guess. Or maybe Brazil thinks they can annex Paraguay now that they have accepted culture. Who knows? Um, I try and talk, I get a freaking pop up. Annoying, annoying as heck. I swear it's to try and like it would have to be something as simple as probably not even a game. Well, I don't know. Just being weird. There's nothing there. It's just my terrible luck. Nothing in the programming. It's just the cursed luck I have in life. Anything I ever do anywhere seems to get frustrated, so it's not like it's actually this program or that program. Could bring back infantry support tactics. Probably after. Is this still on cooldown? Really? Well, it can launch diplomatic offensive in preparation for the warmonger rating I'm about to gain. And then I'll bring back infantry support tactics. New task, divide and conquer. It wants me to take control of Serbia, the thing I was about to do anyways. That's a bit of good luck for once. So my point is that it doesn't shift people from poorer countries. There isn't a net shift of population from poor countries to wealthier ones, at least in terms of the poor countries don't have fewer people. And the people who are added to the rich countries by migration tend to be, at least for the first generation, hyper exploited and paid much less. So it just results in a lower average wage for humanity as a whole and a net increase in human misery. Now, future generations, the children and grandchildren of migrants will actually often make slightly more than native born well, they're all native born, but sorry, second, third generation of native born parents. When people, the grandchild of a migrant versus the grandchild of a native born person, where the migration in the country is many generations further back. But at least in the short term, it causes more miseration. It does grow the economies, though, and the potential military recruitment pool of countries. So the leaders of the country would want it. All right, well, I got a diplomatic offensive. Done infantry support tactics. Time to attack Serbia. Assigned exactly half my military crane, equal amount for deterrence of other nations take advantage. Uruguay joins the bloc of Mexico. Very lethal. This battle, I guess. The Korea, not North, the Korea. Why is my brain trying to insert an extra word? North Korea declared bankruptcy. He has a strong bias against North Korea, honestly. Country that was the victim of U.S. imperialism really was. The U.S. refused to allow free and fair peninsula-wide, really countrywide, but I mean it was divided into two countries by U.S. imperialism already. Free and fair peninsula-wide elections, because CIA analysis, there have been declassified documents and showed that the communists would win peninsula-wide elections. Therefore, the U.S. blocked them. And kept in power also before that already. First peace treaty between Turkey and Mashriq. Collaborators with the old people who have been collaborators with the Japanese occupation government during World War II. Obviously, extremely unpopular, extremely evil fascists who had been responsible for murdering a lot of people under the Japanese occupation of Korea that occurred before and during World War II. North Korea declared bankruptcy. It was like in the 20s or something that Japan annexed all of Korea, maybe even earlier. And they did a brutal occupation. Attacks on civilian targets. Soldiers are often less than polite towards civilians. We have heard stories of plunders and rapes. Officers would like to know if they should discipline them. We are civilized people. This will not be tolerated. It does increase war losses, unfortunately, so it leads to higher unhappiness, but the marginal increase in unhappiness, even though it lasts a long time because they already have so many war losses, isn't that much. Basically, the number of troops Serbia has been able to wear down their entire military through these operations and don't have to use an unplanned offensive, which would cause me to lose even more troops to try and break the back of their army. A very large nation, you can't do that. Like if I was fighting China, I would be forced to just have superior quality troops and win the operations, even though they would have tons of troops left. Numbers provide no direct advantage except for wars of attrition in this game. In the sequel, at least, they created almost a chessboard type thing where the pieces, if you had more men in a piece, it would do more damage. So numbers would count for something. If I'm not mistaken. On how that worked. Honestly, stupid that numbers don't count for much. More soldiers can fire more weapons in a given period of time. You can also carry out, assuming that the front is already crowded in with people, you can carry out flanking operations. You can have reserves to rotate in fresh troops because troops who've been fighting for days or weeks tend to fight very poorly because they suffer psychological and physical fatigue. Battle is exhausting, extremely stressful on the body. This isn't me just guessing at this either. I was in Army ROTC once upon a time. We did some discussion and studying in an academic sense of these kind of things. One of the NGOs is using legal loopholes to offer gambling services without our supervision and without paying their taxes. Peace plan, do nothing, trying to maintain good relations with them. That decreases interventionism. Might as well cut taxes. Lower interventionism, basically, to take full advantage, you need to cut taxes, but higher can be better to delay bankruptcies. It should reduce unemployment growth as well, or reduce the difference between the amount the world economy raises or lowers their economic growth, making growth more steady. But it doesn't do that, even though the description implies it should, and that's how it should realistically work. Like the Soviet Union had a more slow and steady growth rate. So in some boom years, capitalist countries go faster, and in bust years, they go slower. This leads people to the illusion, because biased comparisons always be done with the boom years because of anti-communism, that somehow their economy is slow growing, when actually their long-term GDP growth rate, so when you break into 5-year intervals, which the Soviets also did 5-year plans, but it doesn't have to line up with their 5-year plans, just any arbitrary where the divisions fall, you'll find if you do 5-year intervals, that their 5-year interval growth rates were higher than capitalist countries. And if you even just look at beginning and end from when they first formed to their economic height in the 70s, you'll still see more total growth. The only country on Earth that over that period maintained a higher long-term GDP growth rate than the Soviet Union was Japan. So yeah, they slow and steady wins the race. Instead of sprinting to grow your economy as quick as possible during a boom period and then having a crash where the economy grows very little or even shrinks, just continuously growing. That's what the Soviet economy did, and that's how it exceeded a lot of capitalist countries. There were a lot of advantages their system had economically. One was the slow and steady growth. Another was that because their communist century plan, they were able to get industries to benefit each other. So even though their investment efficiency was lower than capitalist countries, that is, if a certain amount of money was being put into infrastructure in a given sector to improve it, there would be lower returns than capitalist economy. However, two huge caveats that are often ignored. One is due to the nature of the system with decisions being made democratically, so there's more political will, and resources being distributed more evenly, so there's just more resources that can be freed up. More money can be invested, so more money invested at a lower efficiency in a given sector. But also, they would tend to invest all their money in one sector at a time, and the investment efficiency of stuff would always be looking at the benefits that sector is being invested. But because everything was century planned, they'd be investing in ways where that sector would benefit other sectors. So other sectors that weren't being invested in weren't being counted as investment efficiency calculation, but they were actually growing due to this investment. Because, for instance, investing in steel production would benefit the housing construction industry, just to give an example, or concrete would benefit it. The Soviets calculated and coordinated their growth. Of course, their planners were starting to feel that they were running out of ways to grow the economy, and they were with the perspectives they were using by the mid-70s, because they had switched in the 60s. They had partially adopted what was known as the Costigan reforms, and they started implementing basically a profit principle in their economy, which was a huge mistake. And so while the Soviets had their fastest GDP growth between 1945 and 67, before the Costigan reforms kicked in really in 67, their growth started to slow and slow and slow. So their absolute height relative to the rest of the world, and really in many ways the height of their economy, was in 76, but it already started slowing before then, because the Costigan reforms, which created a temporary spurt of growth. I guess I shouldn't say quite slowed. I think it was like a 2 or 3 year increase in growth, 67 to around 70, and then it started to slow, because it did stupid things like calculate the capital efficiency of resources, and this encouraged factory managers to do things like sell off or give away excess machinery in their factories that were there to provide spare parts and being rotated in if something broke. And then when the equipment broke, they didn't have any spares around because the way they were calculating how efficiently industries are run, it created in the long run, in the short run, it created benefits, but in the long run, it hurt the economic growth. And at the same time, Soviet Union had well before then developed a labor shortage. So it was calculated, and this increased emphasis in calculating capital efficiency when they didn't need to be economizing capital, they needed to be economizing on labor because they didn't have enough labor to grow their economy more. They were at full 100% employment and couldn't really find any more. So if you wanted to open a new factory, the only way to do that was to get existing factories to operate with fewer people, which could only be done by increasing capital and actually getting lower capital efficiencies. The cost of reforms completely screwed them up, basically, prevent their economy from growing as quickly anymore. Um, hmm. Let's see. I still can't do the Great Offensive for 175 days. Brainwash GDP. Give me a sec. All right. Grab pornography prohibition on the way to getting uses. Prohibitions increase population growth. Be grabbing censorship a little later. This can create negative events, though. Trying to invest some action points before the next bankruptcy that'll wipe them all out. Still trying to increase population growth. Germany left the UN Security Council. Thailand placed them because Thailand now has about to max on pop growth in capital province, which means economic growth will start to catch up to and surpass. Because they're actually a large part of my economy is my capital, but the population was too. I may need to do advanced social benefits and social housing in outlying areas soon. My population growth won't actually be the number it says. It'll drop to jack all. Military Operation 1, take airfields. Time for an unorganized fast offensive. Well, they don't have any tanks. So I'll put my remaining tanks and infantry on this. When taken, North Korea declared bankruptcy. Lost 2 infantry. All right, another investment. I should get the Olympic Games at this rate. Serbia showed up with some more. Replace a lot of these. They showed up with some more infantry. Darn it. All right, I need to airstrike their armor at least. Then I can do that again. Rush this war to conclusion. So, to cut this video very soon. So, coordination between economic sectors, slow and steady growth, the lack of the economic system needing to have a certain amount of unemployment. In fact, not only does the capitalist system need it, but through by means of the Federal Reserve and adjustment of interest rates and the way interest rates are controlled, not by the way the interest rates are controlled mainly by jacking, or I should say, sorry, the way inflation is controlled mainly by jacking up interest rates, which that only reason that really affects inflation is by weakening the labor market. So basically, we keep inflation down by increasing unemployment. So we force it through a kind of central planning in capitalist countries, their Federal Reserve. Libertarians hate this, and they're actually right to hate this. The file X organ is, of course, all that would, if libertarians were charged, yes, we'd have probably full employment, but people would make half the wages regardless because of anti-labor union stuff they would do. The Philex organization is pushing their new agenda. Apparently, scientists are making up proof of global warming. Oh, bullshit. It's all just a ruse to get more funding. There's no real evidence. Blah, blah, blah. Support. So there's no real reason not to use them, they say. Are they insane? Distort relations with the Peace Plan and the People's Democratic Front. Oh no, wait, People's Democratic Front likes ignoring it? What? We should continue what we're doing. Helps offset damage to nuclear. Do nothing. Gah. List implements fossil fuel energy, which will actually temporarily cause shrinking GDP. But I really can't afford. I'll just go with it because I need Filex to be happy. Don't like it though. Yeah, this should increase my project demand for resources by implementing fossil fuel energy, right? It said it would implement it. Oh, it didn't for some reason. Maybe because I lack the resources. Well, that's a good thing. I would have either had to cancel that or start some resource imports immediately. Vent's broken. It didn't actually affect things with Filex. Maybe because I didn't actually bring back fossil fuels. Righty then. Anyways, war's over. Time to annex Serbia. Boom. I said a boom, shika boom. Immediately start on the culture conversion, and I don't know if I'll bankrupt myself if I do this. 15,000? Oh yeah. Is there anything I can reasonably afford? Probably the mining infrastructure. I doubt that would bankrupt me. I'm running a little short on resources. Still, I'm probably just better doing the bankruptcy in a little bit. I can wait, put that off. That's some APN projects, and then boom. And I won the Olympic Games, beating out the US, UK, etc. Right. It's a good point to cut this. Hope you all enjoyed the video. I never did finish that thought about the advantages that the Soviet system had. Coordination, greater total levels of investment, slow and steady economic growth, full employment instead of a system that forces around 30% unemployment, often even more underemployment. The ability to do things like help recent graduates line up with jobs. All these things lined up, and they still only exceeded capitalist growth rates by a modest amount. But they did grow faster, and that's not an economic failure. So, claim that's an economic failure is a lie. You claim the Soviet Union was a political failure, but not an economic one. I mean, there's a reason they were the first in space. Anyways, I wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves, and may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Adieu, and best luck.